Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Please, none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr Boyce TV. Here we are.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I want to say hi to everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. As you know, for tonight, I had a different topic for my podcast. I was actually going to talk about some other stuff, but I decided to move that till tomorrow because I want to talk about something that I saw tonight, this movie called Creed 3. Did anybody else see Creed 3? Give me a yes if you can hear me, and give me a yes if you saw Creed 3. Give me a double yes if the answer is yes to both. If you can hear me and you saw the movie, or yes, no, or whatever you want to give me. And also shout out the city that you're from. So I went to see Creed 3. And let me just tell you, man, that first off, let me just start here by saying that the film was excellent. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. You know, and remember, I guess I'm an OG now, and I remember the Rocky movies and all that. And I went to see it with my daughter, and I was telling her all about the Rocky movies. I was like, "You didn't see the Rocky movies? You don't remember when Drago's daddy killed Apollo?" And right, it's great how they continue the lineage of just a really extraordinary franchise, and it's interesting how they just made it black. You know, Michael B. Jordan was the director; he did a great job. The film was just really, really good, and we really enjoyed it. But let me just tell you, that movie, woo, buddy, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go ahead and okay. Do I have permission to be honest right now? Let me know if it's okay for me to share something that I'm really afraid to share this like publicly on the internet. Let me know if it's okay, if I can say this and still be loved. All right, and not embarrass myself too much. Let me say this. That movie, I probably cried 5 times in that movie. That movie made me cry. The movie Creed 3. And let me tell you why the movie made me cry. If you haven't seen the movie, the synopsis of the film is basically you have 2 young black men that grew up together. And one was kind of the older guy that looked out for the younger guy. And the older guy ends up going to jail. He goes to jail for 18 years. And while he's in jail, the younger guy goes on to becomes Adonis Creed, and he wins championships and gets all the money and all the fame and all the money and everything else, right? And but the other guy, he's salty, right? He comes out of jail and he's like, looking at his life and saying that should have been my life. Right, I wanted to be heavyweight champion. I wanted the money and the fame and the titles. Like he had all those dreams, and it was funny. I was talking to my daughter as the guy was when they went back to the flashback scene, and as the young version of the so-called bad guy, who was played by Jonathon starts talking about all his goals and dreams. I said, that means something bad's gonna happen to him. I said, things that always happen in these movies is whenever they get a black man talking about his goals and his dreams, y'all know what happens. Pookie gonna end up dead or in prison. It's one or the other. I said, they talking too much about his goals and dreams. That means he ain't gonna have no goals and dreams. He gonna be in a prison yard or something or end up dead. I said, so I bet you, because she had already seen the movie. So I said, I bet you that he's gonna go to jail and the big mama's gonna die. Because that's how they do these movies. These movies are very formulaic. If you've seen enough of them, you know the formula, with the montage and all that, right? I kind of knew, but it affected me. I cried, and the reason I cried was because that movie really it was personal for me, because when I was about 12 years old, well, actually even before then, I had an older brother, like figure. He was my uncle, and he was 8 years older than me. He was my Uncle Donald. I knew him since the time I was born. So when I saw those two in the car and him riding with his older friend, that made me think about when I would ride in the car with my uncle. And I remember my uncle going to jail, and I remember how sad I was. I remember when I cried when he went to jail. I remember how I felt when he came home. I remember riding in the car with him when I was like 14 and he was like 22. And I remember just seeing what prison did to him. I saw the pain that came from what he went through in prison. And so when I saw this movie, it kept hitting me emotionally, because I started thinking about something that most people don't even think about. Most Americans don't think about it because y'all know, a lot of people don't know shit about this, but some of y'all do. Some of y'all do. And it is all the lost dreams and all the hopes that are killed when black men go off to prison like that. You know, when you have these men and women too, when you have them get sent off to jail, you know, for a mistake they made when they were young, and they lose, you know, the best years of their lives, like all the fun. Think about all the things that have happened in your life since you were 22 years old. If you're over the age of, say, 35 or 40, think about all the things that have happened in your life since you were 22, and imagine if all those experiences were erased and replaced with the daily trauma of being in prison. I don't really honestly think that people really think about that. I really don't. I think that in the middle of all these people running around saying Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter is a slogan. It's a fucking slogan. You know, to me, Black dreams matter. You know, when you're 18, 19, and you think about all the things you want to do with your life and all that's erased, you know, it's very traumatic. And I'm not giving away the whole movie, but just so you know, this is a spoiler alert. So if you don't want to hear some of the synopsis, then you should probably not, you know, stay. You can go. It's okay. But I'm gonna talk about this because this really affected me, and this was, in fact, this was one of the reasons why in every election I didn't care about supporting any of the Democrats until they erased the effects of the crime bill, because the crime bill did that. The crime bill took hundreds of thousands of young black men that had hopes and dreams and all the things they wanted to do with their lives, and they put them in a nightmare. And it wasn't like they just locked them up. It's one thing if you get locked up, like if I got locked in a nice hotel room. That would be one thing. That's bad enough. But you're locked in hell. You're locked in a place where you're surrounded by people that are mentally ill. Homicide. You're surrounded every day by homicidal maniacs who might kill you in your sleep. You're consistently traumatized. You have prison guards doing unspeakable things to you, and nobody cares. You're sitting behind bars. Imagine this. I mean, I want y'all to really meditate on this with me, because I need y'all to understand it. You know, with Jewish people, we talk all day about what they went through in the concentration camp. You know, they do things to make you understand and empathize with their pain. I don't think people really empathize with true black pain, even black people. You know, and I want you to imagine being locked away in a place where you might get raped any day, you might get killed any day, and watching your loved ones are out living their lives. And then some of them are dying. Your parents are dying. Your cousins are dying. All these things are happening, and you can't do anything. You can't even be there. I feel some kind of way about that. I mean, I'm not here to sit here and excuse every terrible thing anybody did. I'm not here to excuse every inmate or every person that has committed a criminal act. I'm not here to excuse any of that. In fact, many of the people that went to prison should go to prison. But I think that we really haven't taken the time to ask ourselves, what's the difference between a young person who deserves maybe 4 or 5 years where they can be scared straight versus somebody that needs to be put away for 25 or 30 years? I mean, I don't know. Does anybody else? I mean, how many of you know somebody that went to prison 10, 15, 20, 25 years, and then they come home and their confidence is shot? They're institutionalized like a lab rat. Their brain, their ability to even think independently as a free person is a lot of that's killed. You know, it's traumatic. It's horrible. You know, so the reason the Creed 3 movie really affected me was because that was my relationship with my uncle. We had the same relationship. I remember, you know, when I was a kid looking up to him, and that was my mentor, my role model. And then I remember he went to jail. And the only difference between my life and his was that we weren't boxers, so we didn't box it out in the ring. We were cool until he died. And also, I got his letters. I got his letters from jail. And all through middle school, I would fail all my classes. You know why I failed my classes? Because I'd be sitting in class writing letters, long letters to my uncle in prison. I would literally be in the 7th grade writing these letters to him, just letter after letter after letter. That's what I did every day. I'd write him a letter every day because I missed him so much. And the interesting thing is that I think that as a little black boy, I don't think anybody could empathize with what I was going through. There was nobody that could hear it, nobody that understood it. And I really just think in this society, like I think we have a society that, like if a white woman says somebody touched her ass in 1982, they'll pay her $10 million and act like it was the worst thing in the world. Seriously, you got white women that literally will get paid $10 million because somebody asked her, out on too many dates or said something flirtatious to her on the job. And you can't empathize with young black children who lose their parents and their role models, the number one person you love on this earth. I mean, imagine the person you love more than anybody, like being hauled off to prison, and it wasn't just him. I mean, my biological father went to prison. My biological brother went to prison. There were a lot of people in my family that experienced the penitentiary, and then also death and homicide and all that. Like, that's a common thing for Black men. My biggest nightmare in the 1990s was ended up dead or in prison, like either being in the wrong place at the wrong time and getting killed, or being in the wrong place at the wrong time and going to jail. Because I knew that if either one of those things happened, nobody would care, nobody would help, nobody would be able to empathize with what I was going through, except maybe my mother, if I was lucky. And so when I saw this movie, I said, damn, whoo, they hit the nail on the head with that one. I mean, I don't know what Michael B. Jordan's experience is. I don't know where he drew from to like work with the screenwriters to put that script together, but it came off very real. It came off like even with Felicia Rashad, who played his mother, who's a great actress, by the way. She didn't let him see the letters because she didn't want him wrapped up in the prison life or wrapped up with his prison friends. I know about that too. People hiding things from you or trying to protect you from things. Like I kind of had that too, right? Where I was kind of protected from things. So I was watching this movie like, damn, like I feel like I'm sitting here watching a big chunk of my life like happen on this screen. It is so it's such a thing that needs to be discussed. I think that by them hitting on the need for healing, like expressing your feelings and talking through things and all that, like that's important. A lot of us do need therapy on some level. I thought that was great. Also, I think that the movie, it reminded me of the fact that we need to really talk about just the fact that for some Black men, the environment you grow up in makes it very hard for you to even have good options. You're in a situation where, like, for example, when I went to LA this week, I hit up my friend Ice Cube. And and I remember Ice Cube, he's not just, I'm honored to be his friend because he was also one of my favorite rappers when I was coming up. And one thing I remember Ice Cube saying was, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And I just think, I want you to think about just how terrible those options are. Like think about it. You have two options: either going and being judged by a jury of your non-peers, by a bunch of white people who are going to send you to prison, or carried by 6. You're just dead. You're in the morgue. You're game over for you. Like, those are your two choices: either judged by 12 or carried by 6. And I really don't think people really understand that. I really think that we still are caught up in this idea that somehow reforming the criminal justice system comes down to getting outraged every time a Black man gets shot by a cop, which is certainly something worth discussing, but it goes so much deeper than that. It's so much deeper than that. There are so many, sometimes being shot by the cop makes you the lucky one. If you get killed by the cop, you ain't got to go to prison. You ain't got to deal with the security guards and that system. That system is terrible. So if you ever want to know, like, I'm just going to tell you like this. Look, if you come to me and you try to get me to go vote for any politician that isn't seriously trying to reform the system and go back and correct the wrongs that were done in the past, I can't rock with you. I can't even hear that conversation. It's too personal for me. I can't hear you tell me that Joe Biden has changed and he's a better person. He had an opportunity to change. His son Hunter was the biggest crackhead on the entire block, and his son ain't never had to get 25 to life in prison. If his son was a Black man, if Joe Biden's son Hunter was a Black man, let me know if you agree with this. If Joe Biden's son Hunter was a Black man, he would have got 30 years in prison, and he wouldn't even have a life right now. He wouldn't be traveling around the world and doing all the things that he's doing. He wouldn't have a family. He wouldn't have a chance to have anything. He would literally be locked up in a box. So the idea that this man, push forward all these draconian crime bills that were designed to exterminate the Black male. That's it. They just said, let's just exterminate. Let's just like drop a nuclear bomb on that whole community and get rid of everybody if we can, because they didn't want you around. They wanted you gone. They wanted your children gone. They want you to abort your babies. They want all your young, especially your little warriors. They need your little warriors dead. And I can't sit here and really have a conversation with you if you're expecting me to, as a man, to bend and fold to that. I'm never going to knock you or get mad at you for who you voted for. Or maybe Jesus allowed you to forgive these sons of bitches for what they did, but I don't forgive none of that shit. I forgive zero of it. I can't. I can't even begin to even talk about forgiving it until you fix it. They're just kind of like, well, we exterminated a million Black men, but can't we just start over again? Can't we hit the reset button? No, not until you correct the wrongs that you did in the past. Not until you go back and fix what you have done. Not until you go back and rectify that. Like, you can't tell me that, they're dead now, or they're all in jail now, so let's just forget about them and let's look to the future. Fuck you. Excuse my French. I'm serious. I have zero patience for that nonsense. And I'm just telling you, I'm not gonna ever, if you ever tell me who you vote for, don't think I'm gonna shame you on it. I don't voter shame people. I don't tell people that you're bad because you're a Trump supporter or that you're a Biden supporter. I don't. I'm just telling you how this movie reminded me of why I can't forget what you did to me. I know what you did last summer. I know what you did last year. I know what you did 20 years ago. I know what you did 30 years ago. I know what you did in the 1990s. I still got the videos of you talking about black men like we a bunch of roaches that need to be exterminated. I know all of this. I see all this. I remember all this. So for some people, maybe some people don't get it. Maybe some people don't understand. Maybe some people don't really care. For people that think that way, I would encourage you to reconsider. When you say Black Lives Matter, I need to ask you, why do our lives not matter to you when we talk about what's happening to our people in prison? You know, when you watch that movie Creed, what they're really sending, the message they're connecting you with is that this brother spent 18 years of his most productive years of his life locked up in a box being treated like an animal. He was not a bad person. He just responded to a situation. He just had to pull out a gun to protect his friend. A lot of us would have done the same thing, but he spent 18 years in prison. And the whole time he was there, he was in shape. He was thinking about all his dreams. He was pissed off. He was abandoned. I mean, Lord, I mean, to some extent, yeah, it's formulaic, right? He's basically another Killmonger. He was the Killmonger of the boxing ring. They went with the Killmonger formula, right? That's what it is. That's what Hollywood does. They're very formulaic. But it was a good movie. It was a great movie, right? But I could predict every scene and all that. It was pretty easy to do. But great movie, excellent movie though. You know, if Michael B. Jordan, John, if y'all see this video, just know, hats off to y'all. Great job. I thought it was awesome. I love how they moved forward from the Rocky franchise and they pushed Stallone away and I guess told him to go ahead and go out to pasture, and they made this into a whole different franchise. I thought it was beautiful. But the thing about this movie that they were really connecting you with was the pain and what you might see as just anger, like, oh, he's an angry black man. Oh, he's just pissed off. Why is he mad at everybody? Why is he acting like that? Well, he's mad because he sat there in a box for damn near 20 years and watched all his dreams die. His relatives died. His friends abandoned him. He was already an orphan. He felt completely unloved. And now he's out and he's like, I'm going to make this right. You know, so if that don't make somebody want to hurt somebody or kill somebody, I don't know what does. You know, so this system creates a lot of the violence and the chaos that you see. When you see the anger and the dysfunction and the violence and everything else, the system creates a lot of that because there's no empathy for what these individuals are going through. Prison is a terrible place, and I don't understand why we need to make it such a horrible place. I'm not saying it needs to be the Ritz-Carlton. I'm not saying that prison needs to be a wonderful place to go. You know, and somebody said, "What you're asking? Was it a victimless crime?" I agree 100%. I'm 100% behind the eye for an eye concept. In fact, to me, if you kill somebody, I wouldn't have a problem if they said you should get killed too. Whatever you did to somebody, somebody should do the same thing to you. So you take somebody's sex stuff sexually, well, somebody should do that to you. I'm okay with that, honestly. I really am. But at the same time, you remember this, you have a lot of people that did 25, 30 years because they possessed a little bit of dope. And if they put every white person in prison for possessing a little bit of dope, there will be no white people left, damn near. There will be very few white people in society. White people will be damn near annihilated because y'all know who was buying all the dope. Y'all know who was really trying to possess that stuff. I taught at Syracuse University for 13 years, and that place might as well have been a big-ass crack house because those kids had all kinds. They had drugs I had never even heard of. I'm not kidding. I never understood why you would just take a pill without knowing what the hell that pill is going to do to your body. I never got that. I don't understand that. I try to be thoughtful about what I put in my body. The only poisonous stuff I might put in my body is some fried chicken every now and then. But putting all Molly's and Percocets and prescription drugs that your grandma had in the refrigerator or whatever, like that don't make sense to me. I'm sorry. I just don't understand that. But I saw that. I was on the faculty of Syracuse and I fought with them and I said, why are you encouraging or allowing these young people to just run around and become alcoholics and drug addicts and acting like that's just a part of life? Where I grew up, that wasn't a part of life. I had to make life or death decisions as a black man. I had to understand early that if you don't, you talk about the conversation, like everybody talks about the conversation with your son, right? Like, okay, I gotta have the conversation. And then white people try to be, when they try to be allies, they'll say, well, the conversation, we gotta have the conversation. Only black people have to have the conversation. I think white politicians do it. Not all white people. If you're white, don't think I'm being mean. I'm not being mean. I'm not talking about all white people. I'm talking about the politicians who don't get it. Well, I never have to have the conversation with my son. Well, what is the conversation, right? What is the conversation? Well, the conversation is, son, if a police officer pulls you over, make sure you don't make any false moves. Make sure you make sure you do this and you do that. Make sure you cooperate so you don't get shot. Okay, fine. But that ain't the whole damn conversation. If that's the only conversation you ever have with a black boy, then you might as well just sign him up for 30 years of heartache, pain, and self-destruction. If that's the only conversation you have with a young black man is talking about getting killed by a white cop, you're missing 95% of the conversation, because I know lots of black men who've ended up dead in prison on drugs or fucked up, but I don't know a single one who was killed by a cop. I just don't. Not to say it doesn't occur. It obviously does. But I know not one. I know brothers who've been killed. I know brothers who've been shot. I don't know nobody who was killed by a cop. But I know a lot of brothers who were killed in the hood. I know a lot of brothers who went to jail over some nonsense. I know a lot of guys who ran out in the world. If you don't have the conversation with your son, you need to talk to your son about, okay, after you're talking about the cops, you talk to him about dealing with other crazy black men who might harm you, wrong place, wrong time. You had talked about drugs and alcohol and how so many men are in prison right now for things they did while they were high on dope and alcohol, right? Especially when the rappers are promoting it and making you think that that's cool and lit. Yeah, you tell me how cool and lit that is when your ass facing 30 years in prison for something you don't even remember doing because you were too high and drunk to even have your right mind to even make strategic decisions because somebody convinced you that you're supposed to walk around high and drunk all the time. You talk to them about women, STDs, babies, mamas, going broke, making money legally. Like there's a whole, we talk about the conversation with your son. I hope your conversation ain't just, son, well, if you see a cop, you better run because cops are going to hurt you. Cops are like one of about 85 threats that black men face that kill us early, all the way down to fried chicken and liquor. Okay, like you ain't even talked about cancer, diabetes, and heart disease, and strokes, and heart attacks, and everything else that happens when you are not even taking care of your body. Black men die young, but we die from a whole lot of stuff that ain't got nothing to do with being shot from cops. I'm not saying cops don't shoot us. I'm saying that that's like the beginning of the conversation. There's a whole long list of things you must discuss before you just assume that cops are the only threat that your son has in this world. So I just think, I'll say this: when my father had the conversation with me, it was never one conversation. It was multiple conversations. It was many discussions about making good choices. It was discussions about responsibility. It was discussions about, like, don't go out here and do nothing stupid because ain't nobody going to bail you out. It was, son, in this world, don't nobody feel sorry for you, so you better not be feeling sorry for yourself. It was, son, you better work hard and set goals for yourself or you won't accomplish anything. It was, when you get a family, you have to be able to provide for your family. It was, don't be messing with no ragged, don't be trying to turn a hoe into a housewife. Don't be out here messing with just any old woman planting your penis anywhere because you end up with 8 babies, mamas, and a bunch of diseases. It was, it was so much deeper than just cops. It was like, son, don't be hanging out over there. Don't be hanging out with people who have nothing to lose because you're going to be trying to keep it real. And next thing you know, you'll end up in some situations that you can't get out of, right? I really encourage you to have broader conversations with your son. Don't let it just be, son, the cops are trying to kill you. I'm sorry. I know cops. Every cop that you see is not trying to kill you. I just don't believe that. That's not the threat that your son has to worry about. But I know when my best friend got shot in the head in front of his daughter, it wasn't no cop that did it. Not that I know of. In fact, we knew who did it. The police just didn't investigate. So the police played a part in that, but they didn't actually do the crime, right? So this movie, Creed, was excellent. It was worth watching. And as a black man, it really affected me because I felt like I was watching like parts of my life. I was like, oh my God, this is too much. Woo, this is hard. And I really encourage you, if you really want to do a favor for black men, try to just take the time to understand where they're coming from, where our pain is. I know women have a lot of pain too, and I encourage men to do the same thing for women. I think that some of y'all that are just mean to black women, you ought to be ashamed of yourselves. You got to realize what black women go through. It's really, really hard for black women. And let's just say, I mean, collectively, I don't know. Some would almost argue that they're a little more loyal to us than we are to them. So, but then again, I don't know. I'm not going to evaluate that. But I really think we got to have more empathy for each other, and even I got to get better at it. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents on the movie. I recommend it. I enjoyed it. It was really good. And thank you for letting me be a little more transparent. This was very emotional for me, and I don't. It's not often I'll admit that I cried during the movie, but I did cry during this one, and I cried several times. And I was like, "Damn it, Michael." You know, tapped into my emotions. I knew he was going to do it because I know the Hollywood movie formula. I was like, yeah, they're doing this. The reason that he's having that conversation with his mom was because his mom was probably going to die. That's what they do. That's what the movies do, right? I'm like, okay, he got me. But he did a really good job, and I'm super proud of the movie. And somebody said, do you like Jonathon Majors? You know, let me say this about Jonathon Majors. Jonathon Majors, that Ebony shoot, that a couple of those poses I did not like. I didn't enjoy them. I thought that I don't like the portrayal of Black men as in a feminine light. However, Jonathon Majors is probably one of the most talented actors in Hollywood right now. This man is. I saw him in Ant-Man. I saw him in Creed. He's doing Army commercials. I didn't see the movie he did about World War II, but he's a great actor. Like, I mean, this guy, he's got his own like kind of style. You know, he's got this kind of Denzel-ish kind of uniqueness to his character, and it's very compelling, and I respect it immensely. You know, I respect anybody that's great at their craft because I know how much that takes a lot of work, and so I wish him the best. He did a wonderful job, and I hope these guys make another $1 trillion with their movie series because I think they did a good job with this one. So anyway, that's my 2 cents, guys. Do me a favor, if you could please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Just a reminder, I have a new book out. It's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can get a copy on Amazon. The reviews are extraordinary. Just go to Amazon, look up The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, or look for Dr. Boyce Watkins. You can find my book that way. Or you can also go to boycewatkins.com. That's my website. And you can join us in Houston. We're doing a Black Wealth Boot Camp on April 21st for 2 straight days on how to get off the corporate plantation. And tomorrow I'll tune back in and we'll talk a little bit about what's going on with these bank failures and everything else. You guys know my background's in finance, so we'll talk about that as well. Let me go ahead and hang out with my wife for a little bit, but I'll check back in with you guys again real soon. So God bless you. Have a great night. Nick says, what age did you make your first million, Dr. Watkins? I don't even remember. Honestly, I didn't there wasn't like one date where I just knew I made my first million. I don't know. I made a few $1 million, but after you make enough money, money doesn't matter as much anymore. At least it didn't for me. I don't do this for money. I do this because I just love what I do, and I want to make a difference in my community. But when I was younger, maybe making money mattered. But once you make money, it's not as important as you might have thought it was. That's my 2 cents. So have a good night, guys. Have a good day, and thank you so much for checking everything out. I'll see you soon. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.